Yep.
All right. Welcome to the Northwest Georgia Football 6 AAA preview show. I'm joined today by Chris Napier. He's our boots on the ground guy for 6 AAA, man. If you guys like 6 AAA football and you don't follow him on Twitter, this is a guy to follow, man. Stats, highlights, game info every week. I'll put a link to his Twitter down in the description. You guys can give him a follow. But guess what we'll do today, man, is we'll go over all the teams in reverse order from last year, talk about some of the strengths that they have coming into 21, and we'll shorten our list of Player of the Year candidates, and then we'll pick our playoff teams for the year.
That'll work.
All right. So we'll start with Coahulla Creek.
Coahulla Creek. We just recently watched them play at Chattooga. They played a pretty good game. They got down early. They gave up 2 big runs against LaShawn Lester, and that's something you see all the time from Coahulla Creek. They'll go down early, but they did fight back. They brought some intensity later. They've got some good players. You got Case Kinnaman coming back as quarterback. You see Justin Baker as top receiver, and you can tell by seeing Justin Baker at the spring game, that kid did not waste his offseason. And they've got another player I like, a kid named Aiden Patterson. He made some plays to extend some drives. Really help put some points on the board. It's just tough, and we keep waiting every year for Coahulla Creek to take that next step into a team that goes from, the new school to contending for a playoff spot, being competitive. So I think this could be a year where you see that next step taken.
Yeah, that's the thing I noticed in the spring game. We saw the spring game. Outside of those 2 big runs by Lester, the defense played pretty well.
Yes.
And I think the key to them this year is going to be stopping the big play, because there's plenty of offense in 6 AAA.
Yes, there is a lot of offense, a lot of playmakers. Speaking of Coahulla Creek, and I mentioned about, they go down early. That's something you normally see. In the spring game, we saw Lester, after that 2-point conversion, Coach Wilson had voiced some concerns to his team there a little loudly. I didn't know what he said, but I'm sure it had to do with effort and intensity. And we saw that ratchet up immediately after.
Yep.
And they were able to, contain that Chattooga ground game. And they were able to sustain drives. They caused a few turnovers. I think they had 3 turnovers right after that. And, winning the half, a very competitive game there at 14-10.
Yeah, I think one of the problems they're going to have, too, is, the offense in that spring game was more or less the quarterback.
Yes, Case Kinnaman made a lot of plays. And, Titus Underwood last year for Coahulla Creek, he had a lot of offensive production at the running back position. And the Colts are going to have to find a way to replace that offensive production, because you need that ground game. You got to have that ground game to make that passing game work. So they'll be looking for somebody to get that yardage they need.
All right, let's go to a team that you have to say had a pretty disappointing 2020. Lakeview Fort Oglethorpe. How are they looking 21?
Yes, they did. They finished 1-9. They look surprisingly well. I think, got a new coach up there, Bo Campbell. The offense looked completely different. If you've watched LFO over the years, you see a very large ground game. They were taken to the air, and they've got some guys, with the new quarterback in there, Keenan Walker, big kid, big arm, and he's got some weapons on the outside, a guy named Trayvon Gott. I don't know if you know who Trayvon Gott is, but he's a rising junior. This is a kid you want to keep an eye on. This is an athlete. He's a playmaker. And in their spring game, there's some highlights of him. He made some great plays. One real long touchdown. You can see his speed's on full display. You can tell he's a big kid, coming in at 6'1", about 185 pounds. So I think with this new offense, I think they could, get back on track. And I really don't look for another 1-9 season. I really look for him to get back on track.
I follow this stuff pretty close, man, and Gott was one of the guys that caught me by surprise this offseason. I hadn't even heard of the guy until this offseason.
Well, he had some good plays last year. He was primarily defense, and when he plays defense, you watch him. He's one of those guys that you see that it seems like he touches every blade of grass on the field every Friday night, because he was all over the place. He's very athletic, and this year I think you're going to see a much larger offensive presence from him, and he's a great athlete. And this is, if college coaches, if you don't know who this guy is, give this guy a follow and keep up on him.
What about Murray County?
Murray County had a big senior class last year. I think they finished around 4-6. So this year you're going to have a lot of new faces as starters, and this is, you know, you don't want to say it's going to be a tough season because you don't know. I mean, but you know, some of those guys coming back, like Eli Hope there at center, the big man in the middle. He's a 2023, a big kid, 6'2", 280. You know, Aaron Flood at linebacker. You got Tyson Leonard. I remember seeing Tyson Leonard. He played some of the games. They had some guys out for COVID last year. So he got plenty of work in at quarterback. You'll see him. I think they just hosted a 7-on-7. He threw a couple touchdowns. But, you know, you don't know what to expect until you see him on the field. So
right. I saw some film on Flood, man. I think Flood is the type of guy that could play probably any team in 6 AAA.
Yes,
I mean,
a very good
player.
linebacker.
Junior this year. I think he'll have a big season. But like you said, I mean, they lost 20-plus seniors last year.
Yes, that was a huge class.
So
and you know, with Aaron Flood and Tyson Leonard and Eli Hope, these are the type of players they're going to need to step up and be leaders on this team, you know, this season.
Sonoraville, I mean, they had a disappointing 2020. They were picked second in 6 AAA last year preseason, and
well,
they slipped up a few times. And
a couple times. I had Sonoraville picked as a playoff team last year, and you know, last year it's just that you got to win the games you should win. I think they had a couple losses last year that I thought they should have won, but you know, LFO's kind of had their number the past few seasons.
That last second field goal at Murray County got them.
The Elber Ramiro kick heard around the region. 52-yard field goal there at the closing of the game to win it for Murray County. But you know, so they're starting new, and they've got a lot of playmakers coming back. You know, Bryant, Beddington, and a kid that I didn't notice too much last year, but I think would be more involved this year is a kid named Ridge Red. He's a big receiver, coming in at 6'4", around 215, and Jackson Pate at quarterback will have plenty of guys to spread the ball around. You know, and then you got Zach Lyles in the backfield, who's been making a name for himself on the baseball field. What I see on Twitter, you know, so you know, they're going to be all right. I think they're going to have a good season. You know, so.
Yeah, I saw him back at Pepperell in the 7-on-7 a couple of weeks ago, man, and I was impressed the way Jackson Pate was able to stand in the pocket. I know he's going to make some mistakes as a young guy, but I mean, he throws a solid ball, and the guys are in incredible shape, man. All those guys spend time in the weight room, you can tell, and I think that's going to be a difference maker for them this season. All right, Ringgold.
Ringgold's going to be really good. I like this class that Ringgold's got, this senior class. I think Corey Dumas is all-region running back returning, and rightly so. The kid had a great season last year. I think I texted you one time in the midseason and said, you know, Corey Dumas may be the best running back in the region at the moment. And so they've got some other players, you know, Mason Parker back at quarterback, and he's got some guys on the outside, Malachi Hill and Javon Coney, who I've seen have been doing some work in the off-season at some camps. They look ready to go, and this is a very talented Ringgold team. And this is the type of team that you could see fighting for a home playoff game. So if you're not in a seat on Friday night in Ringgold, you're missing out.
I'll tell you a guy too on Ringgold, man, that stands out is Kyle White.
Yes.
Safety. I mean, the kid's got 300-plus total tackles his 3 years at Ringgold. Going to have a huge senior season.
Yes, he's all over the field.
I know they struggled a little bit on last season on the defensive end. I think they gave up close to 30 points a game. That'll have to improve this year if they want to make a playoff run. But yeah, they're solid.
Yeah, I'm really looking for Ringgold to have a big year. This is a really good senior class they got coming. So they're one of my 4.
How about the surprise team from 2020, Lafayette?
Lafayette. This is the first playoffs that Lafayette made in over 20 seasons.
Yep.
And it was a team that was led by their ground attack with Jamario Clements. He's on to play Division I college football now. They're going to have to look for ways to replace that. Jalen Ramsey, I think, will be back at quarterback, and I'm not sure Junior Barber at receiver.
They got that new coach Andy Scott up there who's stepped in. The people I've talked to said he's changing the culture. It might take a year or two to get everybody behind him, but
It's going to be easy with guys like Trey Taylor. Trey Taylor is a ball player, and if you don't, some of these guys we mentioned, we could probably put their huddle videos or links to their Twitter in the comment section. Trey Taylor is the guy you want to look at, and it's going to be easy for them to have. They got a couple big offensive linemen coming back. I'm thinking Dakota Catlett and Coy Pendergrass. Pendergrass is a 6'4", 270-pound guard who moves really well. You have to check out his huddle video.
Yeah, I'll probably say this a few times during the show, but I mean, I think offensive line is going to be huge this year in 6 AAA. Whoever comes out with the best offensive line play is probably going to make the playoffs. Because
you're looking at a region with over half the teams are going to have a new guy under center, and so this running attack is going to be very key. And so whoever's got the offensive line is going to be set up in a nice position.
All right, how about the team that we're at right here, North Murray, the
North
Mountaineers?
Murray, the Mountaineers, Mountaineer land. This is my daughter's school. She's in the band. It's her senior year, so I'm always, at the games, tweeting the games. And so I think you're looking at another year where I've got North Murray as one of my 4 playoff teams. Seth Griffin coming back at quarterback. He's all-region quarterback. He's a legit star. And they've got some other guys. They had a great year with Petty and Tidwell had great years. They're up at UTC this year. They're going to be very competitive. Michael McDade on the outside, we saw him in the spring game, and Michael McDade, I'm telling you, he looked like he was in mid-season form. And that's one thing I always notice about the elite athletes, that no matter what time in the off-season it is, you never catch them out of shape. And Michael McDade looked ready to go. He looked really good, caught a couple touchdowns there in their spring game. And they've got some other guys. Devin Hunt, their linebacker, is a very good athlete. You might see Devin Hunt even contribute offensively this year. They've got the all-region kicker coming back, Owen Hanna. They've got another guy that I think can make a big contribution named Jaden Rice. So check out Jaden Rice, and I think he's a great athlete. You can play him anywhere, receiver, running back. And I think the Mountaineers are going to have another good season. So this is a good time to be a Mountaineer fan.
Yeah, I think the key to the Mountaineers this year, like I said before, offensive line. I saw them in the spring. That quarterback wide receiver hookup was amazing. I mean, the guys are great. But they're going to need an offensive line to protect for him.
Yes.
And they're going to have to find somebody to run the ball to balance that offense out.
Yep. Their running back, I look for a lot of work to be done by Ethan Dempsey, this year, and maybe Jaden Rice. And they'll be running behind Austin Johnson coming back at center. He's a big guy too. I think Murray County's pretty blessed at the center position. He's a big 6'3", 280-pounder.
I tell you a guy I like too is that rising sophomore Petty.
Judson.
Yeah, I saw him pick a pass off, catch a few passes in the spring.
Is a great athlete just like his brother Cade. So he's going to have a big impact, and he's a good enough athlete. You can play the guy anywhere. You can play defense, receiver, running back. He's going to be exciting to watch.
All right, next up, Adairsville Tigers, man.
Adairsville, playoff teams from last year. Yeah. They were number 2 seed last year. They had a big season, 8-2. Now their biggest question is who's going to replace all that work. The guy I'm looking at, I like the most from Adairsville, is probably a guy named Eli Agnew. Tough running back. This is a guy that gained 700 yards last year in a very crowded backfield because you had Crunkleton and you had Courtney Slocum and you had Johnson that had provided a lot of production, and they still managed to run for 700 yards. That's pretty impressive. I look for him and Chris Roper to really be offensive stars for them. And of course, on defense, you can't talk about Adairsville without mentioning Tokyo Gordon.
Tokyo Gordon, man. Averaged 12.5 tackles a game last year, and that's the thing I like about Adairsville is the defense, man. I think they got, outside of Rockmart, probably the most solid linebacking core of any team in 6 AAA.
I love good linebacker play.
And we talk about offensive line. They have one of the best offensive linemen in 6 AAA, if not Northwest Georgia, period. Bobby Campbell.
Yes, young guys, sophomore, 6'1", 260, and he is a very, very aggressive run blocker. You have to check him out. Check out the huddle videos. We can post those down below.
Yeah, they have the key to them too is going to be what they do at the quarterback spot. They have 3 guys right now that are slated to play quarterback. Yes. It just depends on what happens this summer. Chris Roper, rising sophomore Jonathan Go, and Evan Sanders is listed as quarterback also. So just depends on how they go and how they fit into that system. And
yeah, that'd go to what kind of offensive team they want to be. Because you got, with Go, I think he's pocket passer. With Chris Roper, you can do a lot of different things, with that. It's just whatever offense, what you want to be.
How about the favorite, Rockmart Yellow Jackets?
They are the favorite, and they're a favorite for a reason, very good reason. They are loaded with talent. They're a very athletic ball club. They seem to have athletes all over the field at every position, and this is who I got picked. This is who I got picked to repeat as region champ.
I tried to go through and write down some names of some guys that stand out for Rockmart. The list kept going.
Just get the roster.
Yeah.
Just get the roster.
Every one of those guys are like out of a cookie cutter. They don't have a weak spot on the team.
No, they don't.
They're the most balanced offense, I think, in 6 AAA this year. JD Davis is going to take over at the quarterback spot. He had a good game last year against Rome.
Yeah.
So you can't shut down the pass. You can't shut down the run.
Yeah, and this is the region I mentioned earlier that has got a lot of new quarterbacks, and I think the easiest transition into a starting role is going to be for Davis because he is completely surrounded by playmakers. Yeah. So it's not like you've got to do it on your own. You've got guys all over the field that can make plays. So he's going to have an easier transition into a starting role than other quarterbacks at other schools.
Yeah, that'd be good. All right. Speaking of that, Player of the Year. You have a list of
I've got
possible Player of the Year candidates.
I'm going to start off with Corey Dumas. Usually when you'd have, your Player of the Year candidates, you're coming up with a list. Usually it's a list of a bunch of seniors, but man, this 2023 class is loaded with talent.
Yeah, that's actually the problem I had doing it is I'm an old school kind of guy.
Yes.
Seniors are supposed to get Player of the Year.
Yeah.
You don't want to give it to juniors. You don't want to give it to sophomores, but it was tough.
Yeah, and depending on how they use Jordan Haynes, JoJo down there, this kid's very talented, and he could produce a lot. Now there is some talk of Brent Washington, a sophomore at Rockmart, being in the mix of this Player of the Year talk. We'll have to wait to see him. We haven't seen him with a big workload yet, so we'll see that this year. Another guy is Seth Griffin. Seth Griffin's a big quarterback, a legit star. He come in. He was a sophomore last year. You saw him come in, week 1 and 2, and you might think to yourself, "Oh, he's got to get that ball out of there quicker." And then by week 3 or 4, those things weren't even an issue, and you saw him progress very quickly from brand new sophomore quarterback to all-region 2,000-yard passer, leading his team to the playoffs. This guy is very good, and he is one of my favorites for the Player of the Year. Also, I would put Eli Agnew in there because he's got an opportunity to be more featured as a running back this year. That will enable him to use his talents, and he could have a big senior year.
That's the problem I had. When I was looking at Rockmart, they got a ton of guys that could be potential Player of the Years, but they're so balanced, man, that
yes,
most of those guys are only going to touch the ball 3 or 4 times a game. They don't have the stats behind them.
Yeah, and Player of the Year is really a stat-driven category. That's why it's hard. I mean, Jakari Clark and Dennis Sims and Michael McDade, and there's a whole host of other great receivers around the region, but it's really, really hard for a receiver to put up the stats that a quarterback or a running back can do. Put up those stats that we can say, yes, this is our offensive Player of the Year. So, that's why I constantly find myself looking at running backs and quarterbacks as the candidates for that.
Yeah, I like the guys on the defensive side. If you're looking for a defensive Player of the Year, you've got Webb down at Rockmart, big linebacker. Mm-hmm. Kyle White, like I said, 300-plus tackles his high school career. Gordon,
Tokyo
at Adairsville, man, he's a beast.
I've been watching a whole bunch of huddle film, and I really like some of them linebackers. Daquan Banks, down at Rockmart, he looks really good. What makes Rockmart so tough is you can't get down on Rockmart because of the speed they have in that defensive backfield. If you find yourself late in the game down and in a passing situation, you're fighting the clock. You can't make any mistakes. They've got enough speed to capitalize on even the smallest mistakes. And you make a mistake, that's ball game.
Yeah, the key with them is stopping the big play. You have to stop the big play against Rockmart or you're done. I mean,
Yeah, because they've got a bunch of guys that if you miss a tackle at the 40, at your 40, 4.4 seconds later, 6 points are going on the board. That's the type of guys they got, and that's what they're bringing. So, you're going to have to play all out. To beat Rockmart, it's going to take a total team effort, and you can't only just play hard one game. You got to be pretty talented as well.
Well, all right. Before we name our 4 playoff teams, is there some games you're looking forward to this year?
Yes. Adairsville at Rockmart. I know that was a little bit of a blowout last year. I think Adairsville is ready to go for this game. Another big game, probably the biggest game I see of the year in the region play, is Ringgold North Murray game. This game never disappoints.
That game was a shootout last year.
It was a shootout. It was an offensive onslaught. I think they left the defenses at home. I think it was a total of 111 points, a 62-49 game. And I really think Ringgold wants to play this game. I know North Murray does. So this is going to be a game that I really enjoy watching.
Are they here at North this year? Or
they are here. They're here right here on this field this year. So if you're looking for a good game, this would be a good one to check out. Another game I'm looking forward to, I don't know if it's going to play into the playoff scenarios, but LFO at Sonoraville. There's a little bit of history there. I think LFO's really had their number for the past few seasons. I know 2018 LFO had that playoff year, but I think Sonoraville had the better team the past couple of years, but LFO walked away with the win. And I'm really interested, of course, the 2019, the Mother Nature Bowl they had down there, 3 inches of rain. I thought Sonoraville was cruising into the playoffs there, and LFO go down there and pulls off the 1-point upset. And then last year, of course, LFO had a down year, and they were 1-9, but guess who that one win was against?
And it was probably the game that kept Sonoraville out of the playoffs, really.
That was one of the two that I see that kept them out of the playoffs. So I'm just wanting to see if LFO can keep this rolling against Sonoraville, or if Sonoraville can put a stop to it this year. That'll be an interesting game for me to.
I'll tell you a game I'm looking forward to, which is one that I think will determine the 4th spot in the playoffs. It's Sonoraville and Adairsville. Not sure where they're playing this year, but man, I think the team who wins that one will make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Speaking of playoffs, you ready to name your 4?
Yes.
Number 4.
Number 4, I am going with Adairsville.
And I'm going with Sonoraville.
Oh.
So flip a coin and take the winner of that game.
We can agree to disagree there.
Number 3.
I'm going with North Murray, this team right here.
Ringgold. I think Ringgold has the potential to finish as high as 2. I mean, heck, they might upset Rockmart, man. Loaded with talent.
Yeah, you never know. You never know what can happen till the lights come on.
Number 2.
Number 2, I'm going with Ringgold.
Number 2, North Murray, right here.
North Murray.
Number 1,
Rockmart.
Rockmart. Easy.
Rockmart, that's easy. They're good. I mean,